for tuning in to another episode of the No Ordinary Life podcast. It's great to have you on here. Now, before I continue, I just wanted to share a little bit on No Ordinary Life. No Ordinary Life is a careers motivation platform with the aim to inspire, to motivate, and encourage people in their personal growth and career development so that they achieve their goals and dreams. My name is Claudia Newton, and I'm the host and founder of No Ordinary Life. Before I continue to do the introduction of our guests, please make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're watching this on YouTube, and also if you're watching this on any other platform, please hit the closest button to subscribe to receive more of our content. Thank you very much. Also, we are a non-profit and social enterprise, so please make sure you check out our store, which is on our link tree, and the details are going to be on the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're not watching this on YouTube, then I will spell it out or say it out for you. It is linktr.ee/No Ordinary Life. Now that includes links to all our content, including our website, our store, registration for our events, any announcements that we have, so on and so forth. So without further ado, let's get into the introduction. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the No Ordinary Life podcast. I'm so excited to be hosting this episode, which is of our special guest, Jewel Nana Thompson. My name is Claudia Newton, and I'm the founder of No Ordinary Life. Special guest, Jewel Nana Thompson. She is American Ghanaian, and she is an entrepreneur, among several other things. She is currently as a lecturer at Accessory University, which is one of the top private universities in Africa, and it's based in Ghana. The lead for African Women Amplified, AWA or AWA, where she leads a team of key African business ecosystem players developing African Women Amplified, a platform that will close the funding gap for West African women entrepreneurs. She's also the co-founder of a tech platform called LITH, or LITH Africa, which stands for Leveraging Intuitive Technology for Health, which integrates CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy and machine learning to support the mental well-being of African college students. She's the owner of EcoLaunch, a Ghanaian-based business advisory center that supports early growth African social impact startups that seek to expand their offerings globally, alongside Ethia Consulting Group, which is a travel company that brings people home to Ghana to connect with local entrepreneurs, most notably bringing African actress Vanessa Williams home. She's a former World Economic Forum Global Shaper, West African Acumen Fellow, Georgia State University 40 Under 40, Atlanta Power 30 Under 30, and Georgia Nonprofit 30 Under 30. She currently serves as a Futureless Media Innovation Scout and Founders Institute Accra mentor. She has been featured in publications and outlets such as NBC Nightly News, Reuters, TV3, and City FM, to name but a few. Welcome to our platform, Jewel Nana Thompson. It's great to have you here with us, sharing your story. We're excited to learn more about your background and what you're currently doing and the things that you're passionate about. And so welcome to our platform. We're going to begin this with a fun activity. I hope you're ready. All right. So my first question to you, Jewel, is we'll go for something fun. Did you have any nicknames when you were younger or even currently? And what are your nicknames? What were your nicknames?
That's hilarious. So yes, when I was younger, because my middle name is Nana, so growing up in the States, most people, my name is inverted, so it would be Nana. And so most Americans, or my American friends, called me Nana Banana. So that was a nickname for me. And then I'm also Apana, so Nana Apana. So most times people would call me Bean or Abi. So that was kind of the name's intersection. So for fun, people be like Nana Banana. For those who be by Abna, it would be bean or anything of that nature. And then my mother's name, oh gosh, now you have a whole thing coming out, barrage of this. My mama used to call me Mami Sika. So her vision around having the name Jewel was very resourceful, wealthy, money,
Oh,
asset.
wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow, great. Okay, nice one. So Nana Banana and Abna. Oh, Bean actually. Bean. Okay. Okay. So the theme for this year for No Ordinary Life is the year of you.
Mm.
So most people ask this question in different ways. I'm going to ask it this way. If I was to ask you three words to describe yourself, what three words will you use? How do
Oh,
you
good.
describe yourself?
I describe myself first and foremost as being extremely kind. So anyone who meets me and knows my heart, my intentions, my interactions all revolve around kindness. I'm a big kind of reciprocator in the sense of energy and the way in which I empathize with people around me. Is that the first way you're going to meet me is through kindness. Secondly, I am extremely maybe too much to a fault when it comes to like hyperactivity in the sense of I am constantly on the go. Every time I think that's tied to ambition. So for me, I'm constantly on the move, constantly on the go, achieving, aspiring, and working towards something. So let's call that not necessarily hyperactivity, but ambitious. So kind, ambitious. And lastly, I would describe myself as loving. So extremely loving. My work, anything that I do is centered around love. It is centered around the concept of heart and how I can evoke more love and work through my heart. So loving, kind, and ambitious. That is me.
Okay. Oh, wow. Loving, kind, and ambitious. Fantastic. Now, if I was to ask other people about you, what three words will they give?
Always busy. Can't sit still. So I guess again, let's make it positive and say super ambitious.
Mm,
So Jewel is always into something. They would describe me as hardworking, and they would also describe me again with the kindness. I think you can see a number of people who are close friends or people who just get to know me and realize again they see my heart. So always on the go, ambitious, extremely hardworking, and kind.
okay. So I see the similarities in there. That's great. Okay. So from your bio, which I read before, we can see that you're into a few things, including business entrepreneurship, probably a little bit of personal development there.
Yeah.
What courses do you care about?
When it comes to causes that I'm particularly passionate about, one is the youth. So anything that deals with youth development, youth empowerment, things that allow me to engage with youth in their personal career development, that's something I'm extremely passionate about. Also, social impact organizations. So businesses, organizations that are using their leverage and their capacity to make change. Those are businesses or projects that I usually stand behind. And lastly, I'm really passionate about women, particularly women who are within the margins or even women who are successful. How do we ensure that more women are at the forefront, comfortable and confident within themselves, self included, and ensure that there is solidarity amongst women when it comes to achieving big goals and big projects?
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so for those who have just joined us now, well, hopefully not in the middle of the video, I'm just going to do a quick recap on what No Ordinary Life is and the courses we stand for. So Jewel has already mentioned her causes, and it's actually very interesting because at No Ordinary Life, our key themes and courses we care about are youth empowerment, entrepreneurship and business, mental health, and personal development. So this is a great platform to have you on, Jewel, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about your story. So this is where we get into the meat of the interview or the podcast. So this is a question that we like to ask our guests because it's a careers platform. What did you want to do when you were younger, and even as you were growing up? what kind of career did you envision yourself working in?
Oh, great. So when I was younger, I went through the phases that most young, I guess, first generation children go through. And I think everyone's beat this with a stick, where you want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, right?
Mm,
And then lastly, I'm a creative. So I wanted, or I could see myself also being an actress. So I always ask myself, how do I merge these worlds together? And I realized when I peeled back the layers beyond just the titles or what these roles represent, at its core, it was because I wanted to help people.
mm,
And I always looked at it as, how can I help people? How can I assist others to be their best selves in some way? And I thought through medicine, I could do it that way. And I remember I was shadowing a doctor trying to make the decision as, is this the career path that I wanted to do? And he was sharing with me some of the challenges and some constraints around being in the medical field that, again, for me and my person, it
mm,
wouldn't work, right? Whereby for someone else, it would work perfectly. And then when I transitioned into also working in the field of law, I realized again that it wasn't quite for me in the capacity that I wanted. And I saw myself behind it, looking at it from a perspective of systems building, right? How do I improve upon systems? How am I in the background using data, using insights to transform people's lives? How can I use education to do that? And when we look at that space and where I am now, of course, you see kind of the career path aligning with what I learned about myself when I was working in more of a legal space. And how do I tie in creativity? Being an actress, I think, on the side.
mm,
I enjoy engaging with people. So when it comes down to being able to speak about business, being able to speak about my work, moderating panels, creating an environment where we're teaching, we're talking, there you have on like a brand new excitable persona coming up and out.
mm.
No matter how tired I am, there's always going to be energy. And you see
Yeah.
that spilling into my lectures as well in my teaching style. So I think that creativity hasn't died, or that bug hasn't died, where I get to use most of my platforms as a stage. So that's been my
Wow.
career path. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing that. And from when you were talking, I noticed something. I can see that you're a curious person. But one thing that we talk about with No Ordinary Life is for people to make informed choices about their careers. And you mentioned how you had a conversation with a doctor, someone who was a doctor, and they were able to give you an insight into what the job actually entails. Um,
Mhm.
so that's very, very important for people who are considering any career. If you have access to someone who already works in the field, um, ask them about it so that you're not going into it blindly. You can actually see if this fits in with your where you see yourself and your personality and what you want to do. And I think LinkedIn is a fantastic platform for that, social media in general, because you can
Absolutely.
actually be looking at people from afar, people who are already doing what you want to do and be able to see the response of other people as well. So I guess it's called social media mentorship in some kind of way. So that's
Yes.
fantastic. So I know that you're into entrepreneurship and business. You're a lecturer at Shesi University. I want to ask you this question. It's a two-part question. Maybe I'll break it down. Um, in working with the youth, um, when you're lecturing or just advising people, what skills do you tell them or do you feel are needed for entrepreneurship in the 21st century, particularly in the African context? What skills are needed?
When it comes to entrepreneurship in the 21st century on the continent, oh, when there is a sense of agility that is needed, right? The fact that we operate sometimes in a market that can be quite unpredictable. And you are also operating in markets that are somewhat new, right? Because you have an emerging group of people who are getting access to capital or disposable income that are now becoming a new market of consumers for you if you're in a space where you're selling a product or offering a service. And so understanding their needs, their wants, all take some form of agility because you have to conduct that level of market research to ensure that you're creating and providing something that people really want, need, or even if they don't know if they need it, you're able to convince them that this is something that they deserve, or they should, make that personal investment in. But that requires agility, because it's not as easy and it's not as straightforward. Whereas, you have a lot of books that will tell you do X, Y, and Z. Sometimes that doesn't apply to our market, right? Because the context is just completely different. So you need to have that level of agility, and flexibility, in your research or insights to, adapt accordingly. Another type of skill is more of one that is not necessarily a hard skill, but a soft skill. And it is a people skill, right? How relational can you be? Relatable to your audience? How can you engage with them? How can you ensure that there's some level of robust integrity, that even if you don't know your customer personally, you're still able to ensure that all of your practices, your behaviors, uh, reflect someone who values the relationship, right? So now you have this level of integrity that allows you to make sure that orders go out on time. You are constantly engaging with your customers. You have a relationship with them as if they were your auntie, your uncle, your cousin, your sister, and they can feel that. And that creates that long-standing or building that you need to create and ensure value. And then lastly, I think what's important for us on the continent to have as a particular skill, is some form of financial insight. It is difficult. I've struggled with this myself when working in business, that we sometimes get so caught up in building our business that we forget about the fundamentals of finance, right? Are these good decisions that we can make as we're building our businesses? What does this cost? Or how do the economics of all of this impact our business going forward? Considering, again, we're dealing with markets where sometimes our currency drops. We have to take stock of this and that. So there has to be some level of financial know-how, even at the base level to keep your business afloat.
Mm. Fantastic. Wow, those were three powerful um, skills that are needed. Very important. Thank you very much. And then I think the second question, the second part of the question is somehow linked to skill. Um, I think it's actually if you've answered it, but if there's anything else you can add. The second part of the question is what mindset is needed in doing business on the continent? What kind of mindset should people have to succeed,
Absolutely.
actually, to
To
succeed?
succeed.
Yeah.
So you have to have a mindset of always wanting to learn and learn more, right? Knowing that you do not have all the answers, no matter how successful you become, because things change, things evolve, and you need to keep up and figure out how, with the introduction of new technologies, etc., how's that going to influence my business? What are others doing? Not necessarily competitors, but collaborators. What's everyone doing that I can leverage from going forward? So that's a really, really important mindset to have, is I want to continue to learn. There has to also be a sense of openness. I think on the continent, whilst it may be difficult from a technical standpoint, collaborations are needed, right? You don't have to be the only Titan, on your ship. You can have more. So that you can grow and grow faster and go further. So keen insight to create relationships that develop partnerships, that are essential for your business to thrive. So that level of collaboration. The other type of mindset that you need to have is a creative one, right? So most people think creativity only lies within like the art space, but that's not the case, right? How creative can you be when you don't have enough, right? Or you don't have what you need in that moment? How else can you do what others who have an ample budget are able to do? How creative can you think on your feet? How can you redesign a product? How can you re-envision a service? So many things in that capacity. Is your mindset is just simply being creative, thinking on your feet. And then lastly, I would say you have to have a mindset of, essentially, this is for all entrepreneurs, not just on the continent, but a certain level of mental toughness. It gets hard. It's really hard as an entrepreneur. There's so many ebbs and flows, especially on this continent. And most time, all of us, our first inclination is to give up, especially when things go wrong, right? I've just had to close one of my offices, and it was a challenge. It was tough, where I was like, "Whew, this feels like failure. I don't like
Mm,
it." Um, and I didn't want to embrace that, right? Because you're so used to being viewed as someone who's highly successful, capable, etc. And then when you seemingly have to do something that is the antithesis of what you're used to, when it comes to success and achievement, it can break you. And you have to really understand in that moment that is not the end of you, and that does not fully define you or your capabilities. And so you need to be able to bounce back and be tough, especially when the challenges, begin to arise and amount. You've got to keep going, and tap into that mental toughness. For me, it's also tapping into faith. So when I'm able to tap into that, that's really where I'm able to recenter. So my faith in God.
Wow, thank you so much. Um, this question will probably be my last one. Um, in terms of the practicalities of running a business, this will air in the month of May. At No Ordinary Life, the month of May is our entrepreneurship month, and we're going to be encouraging people to, to go for their passions, their dreams, their goals, and the things that they have on their heart and their mind. Um, People would be looking to launch businesses. Around generally, even for the year, they're looking to launch businesses. From your experience as a practitioner of being an entrepreneur and also being an educator, what's the best way to launch a business? The best way to launch a business. We hear about people saying do like a test run and whatnot, do research. What's the best way to launch a business that will be
So
most successful? Yeah.
beautiful. So, I mean, welcome to Entrepreneurship Month, and May is also Mental Health Awareness Month too, right? So, mindsets, all of that coming into play for May. So, I'm excited for those of you that are thinking of launching your business.
Mm.
And what is important, and I mean, you said it already, I think a lot of people negate market research and what it can tell you, and that involves testing. Right. So little simple tests you can run to see how people respond to a product or service, feedback that they're giving you, how is it comparing to something else within the market as well, and then also testing to see that when you look at that data, what's a unique insight that's emerging from that points to the value that you're adding to your market, wherever it may be, whether it's a new market or it's an existing market. What can we look at to say this is exactly what our brand or our business is doing well and provides for this market that no one else maybe can do right now or is doing, or we're building or creating something that's complementing what the market needs right now. So when you have those answers, then essentially you are ready to launch, because one, you have essentially a proof of concept, right? That this is something that, yes, people have said that they want or they're interested in. And you
Yeah.
can start with that small kind of evangelist group of people who are going to be your early brand ambassadors to start fulfilling their orders, fulfilling their services, whatever it may be, and building a relationship that's so personal that they're willing to speak on your behalf and share. I loved purchasing this bottle of water, from Claudia, or I was excited to go to this site and do XYZ. And you're getting that feedback, building that momentum naturally. And then that would allow you to put yourself in a position that you have identified your unique position within the market. You have a strong insight from your own market research, your own testing that you've done. And of course, you began to cultivate a group of enthusiasts who are excited about your work and can speak about it and start pushing the brand out for you as well. So doing a simultaneous like physical launch plus a simultaneous relationship launch where your brand ambassadors, inadvertent brand ambassadors, are also speaking for you are the best way to get settled in launching your business this month.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a final, no, I shouldn't say a final question because it's not going to be the final question. Um,
Yeah.
since it's entrepreneurship month, you want to give out the information. Some people may have heard of the word incubators and accelerators. Can you define what or show the difference between the two terms? What is an incubator? What is an accelerator?
Absolutely. So when you're dealing or when you're considering entering into an incubator traditionally is a more longer term type of program or experience that is there to kind of harvest a number of, let's say, gaps within your business. So incubators offer a lot of technical assistance and support over, let's say, a period span of 6 months, sometimes 1 year, sometimes 9 months. And so within that period, they're recognizing that you are an early startup. You're just starting out, and there are some things or a space that you need to be in to test some hypothesis or assumptions that you have within your business. Most incubators will give you some funding, some seed funding to help you run those tests, to prove and validate, again, your market. They will give you that technical assistance, holding your hand and getting you to the point of MVP, or allowing you to test your MVP, which is a minimal viable product. And so whilst you're in this incubator space, oftentimes some programs may offer you a coach. They may offer you they may offer you essentially someone who's like your counselor to support, a mentor. All of these become aligned in your experience with, again, the expectation that you're moving from, let's say, seedling to actually being a venture that's in the position to get to the market and generate some revenue. Now, most times with an accelerator, that means you've gone a little bit beyond proof of concept, a little bit beyond MVP testing, and you also are more than likely generating revenues already. But now we want to accelerate that growth. And so most times there are certain accelerators that have multiple types of models, so that you can come into an accelerator that may take equity from you by giving you a sizable amount to get you to the next level of your business. So where you may have been operating with, let's say, and this is small numbers for an example, 100 users, 100 customers when you were incubator level, now we're trying to get you from 100 to 1,000. We're trying to get you to 2,000. We're trying to get you to 20,000. And that's what this acceleration process is going to consist of. So it's less of feeding into maybe some technical deficits, but more of, let's get you matched up to a mentor. Let's get you continually testing, and let's insert or inject a sizable amount of cash into you so that you can accelerate to the next level in accessing a new market or growing your venture in a way that can support your next entry into the market, even if you're expanding that way. And so sometimes with accelerated programs, they can run also for a year, but some of them can be short term. That might be like 3 months as well.
Okay, thank you very much for that. That was very informative. And then are there any incubators or accelerators in Ghana that you're aware about, maybe even in African countries that you've worked in that you know of?
Absolutely. There are a number of them that are here, particularly if we're talking about Ghana. You have an entire community that is the Ghana Hub Network that has several incubator programs or technical assistance programs that support early stage startups. So you have them where you may have like the Kumasi Hive, which of course is based in Kumasi. For Ashesi, we have the Ashesi Venture Incubator. Even at the University of Ghana, they have their business incubator as well that supports an innovation. When you're looking beyond the various hubs within the network, you have HAPA, you have InnoHub. All of these are pushing you towards incubation. And when we start to think about it from an accelerator component, you have things like that's more of a global capacity, like the Founders Institute that has a chapter here in Accra that is more of a slight incubator accelerator type program. You also have MEST, right? The Meltwater Entrepreneur Institute that is also based here in Accra that has a number of accelerator-based programs. You also have banks that have joined in to create a mix between an incubator and accelerator program. So you have Standard Chartered, Stanbic Bank that is doing that, Access Bank, particularly for women, Echo Bank that also has programs that are geared towards this form of acceleration. You have the Accra Angels Network that is also working towards other forms of incubation and support. So now you can look to that. We were looking at Rangara Fund that has accelerator support for certain level ventures that you may have. So again, the list goes on. There's several. iSpace, let me throw more. I'm thinking of just all of my friends that are in these spaces running and supporting ventures. So if ever you're looking for this, you can go to the Ghana Hub Network and you'll see the bevy of available support services that are there to you. If you're thinking globally, there are a number that you can apply to as well, including the largest one when we're thinking about tech startups, Y Combinator. You have Echoing Green for social startups that are more green enabled. So my mind is just worrying, rushing with all of that. So there are a number of them that are out there for you.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing that. I will try and get all of that and put it in the description so people can actually access those different incubators and accelerators. And then I'll finally, this is final. Any words of wisdom for the young people, because you're passionate about young people, any words of wisdom for young people before we end the podcast?
So for young people, I think that in this day and age, it is so important to understand your core and what anchors you, because you're going to enter into a world that's going to place labels on you, whether it's good or bad. You could be defined as a great entrepreneur, a horrible entrepreneur. You could be defined as a good student, a bad student. But these are just simple labels that are expressions of others' projections or perceptions of yourself. But what matters most is if you understand at your core who you are and who you're becoming, or who you even aspire to be, so that daily you're setting milestones for your own personal development and growth to be the best version of yourself operating within your purpose. And so once you're operating within this purpose, you have these milestones laid out for yourself of how you see yourself improving, and you're anchored. There's nothing that can stop you, because again, you won't be so dependent upon people's praise, nor will you be destroyed by their critique. And you will simply use these as mechanisms to say, thank you for the praise. I will continue to do well. And when you receive the critique, you will say, thank you for your insight. I will make sure that I improve upon this, particularly if it does align with the purpose that I know I've been called to do. And I think that's the way that we can, think through for young people coming up. And I wish I knew that at a younger age myself, so that I wouldn't take so many things personally in my own journey and have that limit my vision sometimes. Yeah, I think I'm going out there, but sometimes, you can have a vision and you'll share it with people and they will say, no, this can't work. It's impossible. And the moment you hear that, you believe it. At least for me, it used to plant a seed that I couldn't do something. And I questioned it, right? And I continued to question it. And unfortunately, it was never true, because then I was turn to my side and then see someone doing exactly what I said could be possible, right?
Wow.
And it was just because that seed was planted that I couldn't do it. But it's not a matter of not being able to do it. It might just be timing, maybe not right now, right? But there are ways in which you can prepare and set up things. And again, if you're anchored in that core of purpose, vision, and you're moving in that, you're setting things up so that in future it can birth exactly what it needed to birth, even if it didn't happen in the time that you expected. But you never stopped watering that plant, or excuse me, that seed. You never stopped watering it just because someone told you it can't work. You always found a way to go back and water it, and then eventually saw it come to pass as soon as it was time. But the moment you allow that vision, that idea to be killed because someone says it cannot happen, you lose out on that purpose that could have transformed even someone else's life. So know your core, be purposeful in all that you do, and don't allow what others may say about your own journey to impede your own progress. Always water your seed.
Wow. Wow. Fantastic closing words from you, Jewel. It got really heated at the end. Yeah, you just started preaching. I was like, hallelujah. Giving us a sermon on a Sunday. But yeah, that was really, really good advice. Thank you so much. Um, this is why we have the year of you, for you to just focus on yourself more and believe that you're capable. It's not a selfish theme, because we want people to not compare themselves with other people and say, this
Yeah.
person's doing well and I'm not doing so well. What do you have within you that's different? What's unique? So join us on board for the year of you, and just um discover more of who you are and what you bring to the world. We're all here for a purpose, and you are a no ordinary life, and you make a difference in the world. So don't think little of yourself. And as Jewel said, water that seed. So that's you. Water yourself. Okay. So thank you so much for watching our podcast. And thank you, Jewel, for honoring our invitation to be our guest. You're actually our first female guest. Um,
Oh,
our
sweet.
first female guest. So you're making history.
Woo. I love that.
Yes, yes, yes. So please do check out our YouTube channel. This is airing on YouTube. Possibly might be on Spotify as well, just the audio version. So if you're watching this on or listening on Spotify, head over to YouTube to watch the video version. And do subscribe to our channels. Follow us on all our social media channels. I'll put all the links in the description. And thank you so much for watching. Please share this with your network, and we will be seeing you in our next podcast with our next exceptional, no ordinary life guest. The month of May is also mental health awareness month, and so myself and Jewel were just talking about the story behind one of the organizations that she co-founded, Life. I hope I'm saying
Live,
it right. Live. Oh, Live.
live. It's
Live
okay.
life.
That's okay. Yes.
Exactly. So, if you don't mind sharing, what's the story behind Live Life? Oh God.
Sure, no
Yeah.
problem. All right, so LIFT Africa is an acronym for Leveraging Intuitive Technology for Health. This is a particular platform co-founded by myself and one of my former students at Shesi University. And our story is really endearing about how we came to produce this particular platform. My co-founder, and lead for the platform. She was my former student, and I remember coming first year into class, and she was one of those bright, bubbly students every day, hand up, answering every question, always energetic. And I
Mm,
loved it and recognized that about her because I recognize a part of myself in her as well. I used to be that same student.
mm,
And then a couple of months in, I noticed that lights start to dim. And I'm the type of lecturer, educator where no one can be left behind in my watch.
mm,
I pay attention to every student, and luckily, being in the type of university that allows me to have small class sizes, I have the duty I potentially take on to
mm,
make sure every student is successful by the time they come through my path. So when I noticed this in her, I pulled her to the side and I said, "What is going on with you? You are more disengaged than I'm used to seeing you be, and
mm,
I want to know what's happening." And that's when she expressed to me that she was tired. There were a number of things that were impeding upon her decision to continue with school. There were so many challenges that she was facing back home, having to support her family, and she was just exhausted, and that is okay. And I told her, you know what, not on my watch. You're not leaving school. You're not dropping out. You're not ending this here. You have too much to lose and so much to gain if you do stay. And I told her, and I made a promise with her that day that I'm going to be with her step by step from a personal and professional capacity to make sure she succeeds. And she has to promise me that she will finish, her degree. Because you can't go out into this world as a Black woman, as an African woman, and not have something substantive behind you.
mm,
You can no longer become a statistic of someone who falls through the wayside of useless potential, right?
mm,
And that woke her up. And I said, "What is it that you want to do?" She said, "I want to be an entrepreneur." She's now a computer science major. But of course, it was important for her to also follow the path of entrepreneurship, which had been sparked in the class that she was in with me. And I said, "All right, let's do this." We also eventually from that learned that, there were a number of students who were also dealing with anxiety and depression due to the nature of our university. It's very hard, very competitive, very challenging, and sometimes it can push you to your limit.
mm,
And in doing that, we said, you know what, let's create a platform, as we call it, that could be your best friend in your pocket. And so we say leveraging intuitive technologies because our platform utilizes artificial intelligence and machine learning to create recommendations for users on the platform when it comes to their mental well-being and mental health. So this informs or reinforces cognitive behavioral therapy practices,
mm,
where our users have an opportunity to engage with a bot that pays attention to their usage on the platform, as well as makes recommendations based on our systems within the platform for what they can do to create schedules that amplify their overall well-being.
mm,
Users also have access to therapists on the platform that are there for the most part almost 24 hours, and get to take an account of their overall mental health journey and history whilst using the platform. There's additional technologies that we're using or developing right now that will also make our platform stand out. I can't talk about it just yet, but it's amazing in the way that we're using what is out here in the space of technology, and harnessing that, to support particularly African students with mental health and mental well-being. So just to kind of share on the success of what this means is that this was 4 years ago. She's now graduated and, of course, gone on to actually complete her master's on a full ride in the United States.
Wow.
Whilst we're co-building this platform, we've been the winners of $10,000 in funding to develop the platform. We've been featured in Fast Company as a world-changing idea. And we have also been admitted into a number of other accelerators, whilst we have potential angel investment backing for
Wow.
this idea that the world will really need. So our hope is by the end of this year to finally bring it to market, as we've been testing it with our university. And once we do that, this is when the full circle dream will be actualized, where she not only will have her bachelor's in computer science, her master's in it, but also now be a truly funded entrepreneur. And it's all because, again, we supported one another in the sense of not leaving one person behind. And I'm just excited to have been a part of her journey in developing such a platform and being able to have use cases for it. So we're really, really impassioned by the fact that this can revolutionize, mental health on the continent, and hopefully reduce the stigma around conversations on mental health. So as an advocate for students, I believe that this is something that's needed, and I'm excited that especially during Mental Health Awareness Month, we'll be able to share more stories and bring more people into the work that we're doing as well.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And actually, it just shows how a problem can actually be the start of something. So
Hmm.
it's very important that well, it's good that she shared her problem and that you were able to see some solution outside of the problem. And now that problem is going to be something that's driven this idea that's going to be even bigger and help other people as well. So it's very, very important. And speaking of mental health, what's your for yourself, Jewel, what's your go-to when you feel anxious or a little bit depressed? What do you do? How do you take care of yourself
That's a
mentally?
great question. And I mean, in full transparency, I've had to deal with depression at a young age, right? It's coming into high school is when I was diagnosed with mild depression.
Mm,
And that was due to, again, being an overachiever and, high performing. And then you get your first failure, your first, no. And that's why I was so adamant about don't be defined by your critiques or your successes,
mm,
right? Right. And I define myself by my success. And so when I started, and of course that was rooted in other instances later that I uncovered, but to tell that story means that even now as an adult and with my success, I still battle with this. And so what helps me recenter is a mixture of things. So it becomes an ability to go back into self. So oftentimes when I'm experiencing something that is some likened to like a depressive episode for me, I do tell friends I'm taking a moment
mm,
because I am experiencing this emotion that I need to work through, just so that people don't feel left out. Because you need people. You don't want to be in isolation when you're going through your challenges, but you
mm.
need to let them know, especially those you trust and you care. So it starts off with me reaching out and sharing that this is what I'm going through, and they
Yeah.
understand and they're there from a supportive space. Then it becomes more of writing. So I am, of course, a creative at heart. So I take to my journaling, and I don't make it a situation where I feel like I have to journal every day. But in those moments when I'm experiencing that, I write out my feelings so I can see them, feel with, deal with them, and process what I'm going through. Once I go through the writing phase of kind of that journey, then because again, being a woman of faith, then I begin to go back into the word. So prayer, scriptures are what begin to help me realign with my thoughts as well. And then I begin to go in holistically, where now it is a matter of eating well. So I go on a super health binge, and then I transition further into walking, exercise, anything that can help me recenter. And I put in all things that are good. So that's usually my process. So disconnecting, but letting people know I'm still here, um, writing it down, going through the process, reflecting and engaging with my thoughts, seeking solace in my prayers, my Bible, going to scripture to get that mind and that spirit right. And then also transforming where I can with food, exercise, etc. And that usually gets me back into a space. And I came up with a process for myself when I was in business school, when things got hard again. And I said to myself, there's three things I'll always do whenever I start to feel this thing. And I call it a three-step process, which is feel. So I allow myself to feel every emotion that I'm going through, and not negate it. So not, push it away or not cry or not do, no, I will feel it all. So feel with it and then deal with it. So then the way that I go is dealing. So how do you deal with that emotion? So now that you've allowed yourself to express sadness, anger, or whatever it is, can we now start thinking about where this emotion is coming from? What triggered this thing for you? Right? So is it a true fact, or is it something that you've made up and overthought about a scenario or a situation? What steps can you take to regain your power within that situation? And if it's something that you cannot control, how do you release it? Right? And look forward to another process. That's where I call it the dealing process. And then finally is healing. So once I get to healing, that means that I've accepted what is or what was in that moment. I've released, right, what is and what was in that moment. I've forgiven if I need to forgive in some capacity, or I've also done the work, or I'm in the process, because work is continual, but I am in the process of continuing the path towards my healing, of whatever it was that triggered that emotion that maybe led to that episode. And so that's my process as well. So it's feel, deal, and then heal. And you work through that. And I've, like, back in 2014, 2013 is something that I had to coin for myself because I kept seeing it come up. And when it comes to mental health, again, I'm on a spectrum that is not typical for others, because there's some people who deal with depression, but it's a chemical imbalance inside of them, right? It's hormonal, it's something that they cannot handle, and they may need medication. It may need more of a psychologist or a psychotherapist that can help them through what they're going through. But luckily for me, when it's mild, these are things or activities I can do for myself to realign, serotonin levels, whatever I need to get back in a good space with what I'm dealing with. So that's my process.
Wow, that's amazing. And you were able to come up with that by yourself. That's amazing. It's very good to know yourself, and that's all part of self-management. So doing what works for you. If you're someone who also deals with or has depression, or you deal with depression, I suppose it's good to have someone that you can talk to. And if not, then please go for therapy. It's completely fine to have therapy. This is what it's all about, having someone that you can share the problem with. As they say, a problem shared is a problem half solved. So do seek professional advice if you feel you need professional advice.